Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our second Gigabit demo live call on the first Friday of every month, taken to the second Friday this month, thanks to our holiday last Friday. We're so excited to have all of our viewers joining us and some awesome teams joining us to demo today. The purpose of this call is to share Gigabit innovations happening in gig cities across the country, particularly the applications and ideas that are developing in the education and workforce development space. So today we have two really exciting demos from Project Nero in KC and from Adagio remote audio mixing in Chattanooga. But first we have a special guest from our partners at US Ignite. So Carrie, would you like to introduce our first speaker?
You know I would. I'm excited today to welcome Glenn Ricart to the call. Of course, Glenn is a pioneer in the internet. He's recognized for his achievements in internet interconnection points. He was inducted into the Internet Hall of Fame in August of last year. He was the private PI for Surenet, which is the first regional TCP/IP network of academic and commercial institutions, and he now hails from US Ignite as the CTO, and I'm really proud to welcome Glenn. He's going to share some of his thoughts and insight as we look forward into next generation applications in advanced networking. So welcome, Glenn. Thank you so much for being here today. Do we have Glenn?
Bill, is Glenn sharing a screen with you, or should we pull him in separately?
Should pull him in separately.
Okay, great.
I think he should have received the same email I got that would enable him to get in. Now, let me call him too, real fast.
Fantastic.
All right, so we have a little hide and seek going on. So we've got a couple of faces that I see and I can't see completely. So one is like the little blue robot guy. So maybe that's Glenn in disguise.
All right, let's check.
But we'll find Glenn. So let's give a minute to locate Glenn, and then we'll get him to kind of talk. Or we can kind of rotate things around a little bit and start with our demos.
Why don't we start with the demo while I track Glenn down?
That's perfect.
Okay.
All right.
Super.
Sounds great. So, Carrie, would you like to introduce Project Nero in Kansas City?
I would. So this is a local KC project spearheaded by Ilya Tabak, who is a researcher and innovator, founder of 1 Billion Bits and Somametric, an interaction agency. And he's going to talk to us today and show us a little bit about Project Nero, which basically empowers more than 20 million owners of DSLR cameras to become citizen scientists adding data to an artificial intelligence platform capable of detecting asteroids within seconds. So I'm excited to welcome Ilya. We'd love to hear more from Project Nero.
Great. Thanks a lot, Carrie. Thanks for having me. I'm actually bringing up my PowerPoint here in just a second. Of course, as I went to go close a couple things, having a slight delay. As you would expect. So yeah, Project Nero, as you kind of introduced, is something that we came up with as we started thinking about the explosion of technology that was happening. So for quite a long time, millennia, people have been looking up at the stars, and that has been kind of a catalyst for driving human curiosity. And recently, in the century, really in the last 5 years, last decade, the technological explosion, as everybody's aware of, has really given us new tools and new opportunities to take a look at those same stars. There's almost 1 billion smartphones being sold worldwide, and last year there was more than 13 million DSLR cameras that were sold. And so with all that taken together, it's introduced a very interesting opportunity to explore the stars in a new way. And so with that, we proposed Project Nero. The basic idea is to enable a completely uninitiated citizen to take their DSLR camera and take their smartphone, really any modern smartphone, and use them together and take pictures of the night sky. And so what our project focuses on is creating a very, very clean user experience around that process. So by taking technologies that people already have, walking them through a very, very clean onboarding process, and making it pretty easy to figure out the settings, to figure out maybe the best place, the best time of day, and really prepare them for their trip to take pictures, and enabling them to take a set of photos in order to be able to look for celestial objects. And then the second part of the platform is to then take that high quality image set, which can be quite challenging to attain for scientific purposes, especially on a broad scale, and make that accessible to the computer vision community in order to have those processed for near-Earth objects. And so Nero really is bringing together kind of more of a citizen population that has kind of the modern technological footprint that we see, you know, digital cameras and smartphones, and allowing them to very quickly, without going into the forums and without engaging with many of the very steep parts of the learning curve to becoming an astrophotographer, to generate images. And so as part of the NASA Space Ops Challenge this year, we brought a team together to look at what would it take to kind of design the platform and create the workflow in order to make that pretty easy. And so I think I almost have my presentation back. And so I'm going to show you a couple things about what we did with the front end, and really talk about some of the exciting opportunities that the gig provides, because there's only about an estimate of about 100 to 150 amateur astronomers that participate actively with NASA. And so using really what we're calling collaborative telepresence, but file sharing and telepresence and maybe some robotics, we feel that we can allow many of the experts that may not be available to many communities around the country to participate remotely and enable a more interesting conversation around these issues. And so there's that. And so can you see my presentation now? Carrie?
Yes, we can see it. Good.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. So Nero, and as I mentioned, kind of very clean user experience. We've really focused on what do you need to know, what is important for you to be kind of prepared and to take good imagery and know the proper settings, and also how to make good imagery. So having a remote shutter, for example, having a sturdy tripod, things like that. Then plan your travel, begin the shoot. We also start to introduce the concept of calibration frames and other things necessary to take kind of very, very high quality and remove noise that may be associated with your camera. And then we enable kind of the facilitation of journaling and adding the metadata necessary to make good quality images. So the process is using your cell phone to be pretty much a digital journal, adding the telemetry data, the weather data, any notes, and really creating rich metadata around the image that you're taking and really around the trip that you're taking. And then using the gyroscope and the positioning information from your phone to actually augment the imagery that's being created, both with the direction, celestial coordinates, in order to identify the space that you're actually taking images of. And then once you return from the trip, there's a very clean way to upload that set. And so that really is a nice handshake to the computer vision community to then start to really port, because a lot of the algorithms are already developed, but then potentially consider developing new algorithms for searching for objects. And the objects we're specifically initially interested in looking at are near-Earth objects. Many people know, not everybody knows, that there's about 650,000 documented Earth-threatening near-Earth objects, or ones that could potentially cross with the path of the Earth. And NASA recently put forward a Grand Asteroid Challenge to be able to identify and do something about all of those. And so they're on their way, and this is kind of our entry into that space. So we were finalists in the NASA Space Apps Challenge with that proposal. We were in the Galactic Impact category, and so a nice kind of double entendre there a little bit. But you know, we were encouraged by this work, and we continued to kind of look at ways to scale that project. As you can imagine, there's lots of constituencies that would be interested in this work. It's an interesting application in the student cohort to kind of student groups. It's a great activity, and really our main path forward that we're looking forward to is having parents and their kids go out and together spend 45 minutes to an hour taking pictures in the night sky, and maybe having a conversation about, you know, space, about camera settings, about how to use technology to explore and things like that. So we're very excited about that. We're exploring some interesting applications in the classroom and how this can be used, probably likely in out-of-school time extracurricular activities initially, but we're having conversations in a couple different places. And as a rich data set is actually created, there's ways to add features like tracking already known near-Earth objects and creating secondary imagery of those, as well as potentially documenting celestial events from multiple locations. And so we're looking at some of the possibilities there. And really the interesting thing to us with gigabit connectivity is the Nero really is a platform that enables a lot of interesting conversations around near-Earth objects, around space, around using technology. And so with that theme, we're looking at a lot of different ways to use collaborative telepresence. One being a space summer camp where we would actually connect facilitators, whether they are Girl Scout troop leaders or science club leaders at schools, teaching them and really informing them about the platform, but then using telepresence after they've taken their first couple images to collaborate with astrophotographers remotely, and also get commentary and feedback based on their images. And so they could take an image, send image to a remote astrophotographer, and then have a discussion about light curves from that full image. And something like that is, along with the telepresence and things like that, is one thing we're interested in. The other thing we're interested in is actually having multiple groups of students as they conduct their campaigns, whether they're Girl Scouts or it's the Science Club, be able to collaboratively teleconference with each other and really share their experience. So they would go out, collect their imagery, have a discussion about that, but really in short order be able to have an interactive conversation where they can actually share their full high-quality images, talk about settings, location, that kind of stuff, and then have a discussion. And so that's really what's interesting to us about the part with the gigabit. So there's a lot of partnership opportunities. There's very interesting things going on in space, being able to remotely control telescopes, as well as showing people how currently asteroids are being discovered. But that's pretty much Project Nero. And Project Nero is also probably the least complicated form of astrophotography, in that it's the simple modality where you have a DSLR on a tripod. There is also, it's a good starting point to get into some of the other disciplines. So yeah, I think that's a good, maybe less than quick, but good overview of what we're working on. So thanks for your time, and be happy to entertain any questions and chat about kind of what we're excited about.
Hey, this is Glenn. My question is, okay, so I'm excited. I have a DSLR. What do I do next? What's my first step to get involved?
So the first thing you do is you go to projectnero.org and you sign up to say that you're interested. And what we're doing is we're still standing up kind of the pilot project to onboard the initial group of probably 30 to 40 people to really test the platform that we built out. We're kind of at a prototype stage right now, and there's a couple things that need to be shored up. The other thing is there's a number of different communities represented. So there is the kind of students, parents group, there is the computer vision scientists group, and so based on your interest, you would actually sign up with that group. So the other piece of this would be organizing kind of the initial computer vision challenges to start the exploration. And really the first part is porting the existing algorithms that exist, but then start a discussion about what are interesting opportunities to use this kind of wider crowdsourced image set that has been refined somewhat to explore and maybe even deploy in a strategic way. So the first part, sign up. Let us know you're interested. We'll announce the pilot as that kind of gets up and going, and then we're still kind of working on the strategy of putting together the computer vision challenges.
Is there any if something's come relatively near Earth, you might be able to get some parallax between different spots on Earth, or during the Earth's rotation, morning versus evening, you would see the object at a different point in the sky versus the background stars, which I assume is part of the way in which you determine the asteroids are coming relatively near the Earth. So I would assume that you'd want some folks in diverse physical locations, or is the rotation of the Earth enough to get what you need?
The rotation of the Earth is enough to get what you need most of the time. And as you're talking about being relatively close, that's where you have enough, you also have the physics problem of having a photosensor that can collect enough photons. And so that's why near Earth with normal, 50 millimeter kind of wide angle night sky shooting, that's why near Earth objects are kind of one of the few things you can explore there. There's, as I kind of showed on the slide, other types of astrophotography, including main focus astrophotography, where you would actually use the telescope as the lens. There you could start to explore other objects. But to answer your question, anything moving out of plane with the stars. So if you take a longer exposure shot, the stars will start to tail. So any object moving out of plane with that can be a number of different things, but likely is a near-Earth object.
Cool, thanks.
And there are a number of collections for known objects, and you can actually register those objects. And in fact, one of the partner slides I mentioned, Asteroid Zoo, one of the programs we're are very excited about because they're doing great work too, shows you kind of the larger telescope photos and how you might identify both artifacts as well as near-Earth objects and celestial objects that way. And so it talks about that process a little bit.
Neat.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Ilya. In the interest of time, I would love to reintroduce our special guest, Glenn Ricart, to talk to us about the new frontier and the next generation of gigabit applications based on his unique insight as the CTO of US Ignite. And as a reminder, there is a Q&A section or question section in the Google Hangout. So if you have questions along the way for any of the demos or the conversation as it directs through, please put those questions there, and we'll do our best to answer them as it unfolds. So Glenn, I would love to have you take over.
Great, thank you very much. And apparently you can hear me because certainly you could hear my question there, so that's great. But you can't see me, correct? Or can you see me?
You're a blue robot.
I'm a blue thing, yes, yes. I've got two cameras, and I go to the Hangout adjustments, and I can select either camera, and it's not showing it to you. So why, I have no idea. But maybe it really wants me to screen share. Maybe that's what it's really about. So I just wanted to spend just a couple of minutes on some of the advanced applications that become possible in the education space when you've got a really cool gigabit network underlying what you're doing, like exists in Kansas City and Chattanooga. What kinds of things does that permit you to do that you might not otherwise be able to do? Of course, there's two things. One is you can push huge bandwidth through. So if you've got a really big data set and you're acquiring really big data, that works great. But the other one is you can have really low latency interactions with other people. You can have that collaboration that was just talked about and have it be really collaborative because of the low delays between people involved. And one of the most interesting to me collaborative frameworks for this kind of educational stuff is in a set of a virtual world framework that's been created by the Department of Defense. And let me see if I can go and screen share. The website is, I'm not sure, select a window to show. Oh, it has to be on my screen already? Oh, I could just say full screen, okay. Share. And then I can say, show you the virtual world framework here. So the URL, can you see it, by the way? You seeing the screen share?
Yeah, we can see it.
We can see it.
Perfect, perfect. So you can see it's at virtual.wf. It's a virtual world framework. And it's a 3D platform, like it says, that lives in your browser. But sort of more importantly, the punchline is not only does it live in your browser, it lives in the browser of other people connected to the same virtual world. So you can have collaborative things between two people in two virtual worlds, and you can therefore do all kinds of interesting collaborations. So, for example, in this platform, you can go and have video conference or video between players of an educational learning game. So here's a very simple example on the home page here of a Pong game that you can go and create here under Getting Started. It would help you to go, and you can go and create this within an hour, and you can have something that looks like what you see there in the inset window. And not only does it work in your browser and allows you to play Pong, but you can have any number of other people also go to the same URL for the instantiation of that virtual world and be able to play Pong with you. So you can imagine that there might be lots of other very interesting demonstrations that you can do with this, or other apps that you can write with this. So, for example, here's something written by New Mexico Junior College called Kimray. So I'm going to go and launch a live session, and if anyone wants to go and just copy the URL, problem security certificate, I'm going to continue. I normally wouldn't do that, but I'm going to trust this thing works fine. It's downloading the virtual world framework into my browser, and I'm going to be Glenn. Is my display name. And join. And of course it wants my display name because other folks can be in this with me. And if anyone may not be able to copy that entire URL because the certificate error is covering up part of it. But we can go and bring up virtual objects. With a long-running script. I'm going to hope that the script is going to finish here pretty soon. But what the junior college has done in this case is to help people learn how to dissect a valve. And if the script is now going to run appropriately, the virtual world framework will come up, and you can go and help understand how to dissect this valve, how to take it apart, how to repair it, how to be able to go and remove objects that have become stuck in the valve. And it's a great educational lesson for how to go and make that valve work. I'm just going to sit here and talk to you for a moment while I hope that the valve actually starts working here. Maybe it still says that it's still running. I've done this in this different browser than the one I tested it in, so because the one I tested it in is the one I need to run for the Google Hangout. But there's others. Maybe I'll just quit this and come back to, back. Come on. To the virtual world framework. So the other examples that are here under the demos, you can see there is a advanced distributed learning sandbox that allows you to create and edit your own environment. So you can create realistic looking environments where you can have avatars that need to solve some particular problem in order to succeed at a task. And in order to do that, they may have to know how to do some math. They may need to know some physics. They may need to be able to speak in a foreign language. You can imagine a number of different learning possibilities into which you can have the learner in an immersive environment that's fairly easy to create, because this virtual world includes everything you need to have a scene, to have lighting, to have movement within that scene. And of course, you can have other people in that same scene with their own avatars, because this, when it runs on your sandbox, can also be running on their sandbox. That's what the valve looks like there when it's actually, when that demo is working correctly. Here's a classic arcade game that you can go, and it's been written in Virtual World Framework. Command Center, a joint operations center, which you can use as a training classroom. You can go and play roles in this command center and learn how to collaborate with other folks. This was done obviously for the DoD. You can occupy one of the roles here, and you can see what everyone else is seeing and make changes on screens, make decisions, and so forth. You could also imagine that this could be a collaborative learning situation. Here's a Humvee lesson, using a Humvee lesson interconfiguration and interface. Here's one on how to walk through basic operations of a radio, play Minesweeper, a tile puzzle. So there's lots of folks who are using this, and I want to suggest that this is a really interesting thing to operate in a gigabit city. The reason it's really interesting in a gigabit city is because you can have very intense interactions with other people, other players, and very complex models. The model you're seeing here of Pong, of course, was written in just, you can write it in just an hour. Somebody who's written it before can probably do it in 15 minutes. But it allows you to go and create realistic objects that you can go and take apart. The valve is a very realistic object if you run that demo. And I encourage you all to go take a look at virtual.wf and perhaps use it for some educational apps that you might want to write. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Glenn. Is this the same thing that we saw demonstrated on the main stage at the Application Summit a couple weeks ago?
It is. It is the very same thing.
When they did the whole...
In that case, they had the Mars rover that was written in this distributed world framework. But I wanted to show you some simpler examples to help folks understand that they could be writing in this afternoon, and you could make very rapid progress because of the fact that all of the scenery is all taken, the 3D-ness of the scenery is taken care of for you when you go and you load an appropriate scene file. And you can, it's automatically multiplayer to begin with. You don't have to do a lot of work behind the scenes to make a multiplayer educational learning game.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you very much for sharing that. It's a resource that has limitless possibilities in the educational and learning environment. So thank you, Glenn.
You bet.
I'm going to turn it back over to Lindsay to introduce the next demo.
Awesome. I am so excited for everyone to see today one of the spring round Mozilla Gigabit Community Fund projects, which was initially called Remote Audio Mixing, but is now called Adagio. It's a project of the Chattanooga Music Resource Center, and we have Jonathan Sussman and Craig Tanis on the line to tell us more about it. Guys?
Hey there. Hi, everybody. Hello. Yeah, so Adagio, it was remote audio mixing because we didn't know what else to call it at the time. The idea came about because I wanted to create rehearsal spaces for bands here in Chattanooga and thought, how can we incorporate the gig into these rehearsal spaces and make them kind of, you know, that next-gen rehearsal space for musicians and doing different things with professional development in these kind of spaces. And so it was great for Lindsay to bring in the educational aspect to us and make us really start thinking about that and thinking about how we can use this remote audio mixing, this cloud mixing, to benefit music education, and came up with this Adagio, these lessons where we want to create kind of a progressive curriculum for students to be able to step by step learn pieces of music, but have access to this remote mixing without having to download huge multi-track files, having to be on the same server as a workstation, that kind of thing. And so Greg here has stepped in with his team and done a lot of the development work. And fortunately, our UI designer guy couldn't be here for this. But yeah, so what we're doing is Craig has been working on the actual code, making the mixing work in the cloud, and I've been working with partners to kind of show how we can use this. One of the things that we're doing is working with the Chattanooga Library and hoping to work with them to create a kind of a lab to capture these multi-track files in that space, and also that's where the Music Resource Center will also run. So that's kind of where we are. I've working with Barger Elementary here, and we're going to have them pick out a piece of music, and then for the fall semester, we are going to use Adagio to walk the students through that one piece of music and kind of see how they use it, learn how they're going to use it, see what kind of how we can measure their success and improvement using this technology, and so yeah, that's where we are right now. After Barger, if we have a successful program with this one song, we want to take it and further connect other schools in Hamilton County and maybe beyond, maybe to you guys in Kansas and all over. We've got, since it's music-based, don't think if I share the screen, you'll get the audio in the right time. Is that right?
Right. You'll want to go there directly, but let me expound on something technical before I show you before you see the actual demo. Jonathan is talking about some big picture applications of this technology, but what we've built is intended to be kind of a modernization of something that we do historically on our own computers by ourselves, and that is take the process of loading a multi-track recording and mixing it so that you can hear all the parts blended together. We're kind of used to this capability now because everybody's got an iPhone, you can put GarageBand on it, you can download and record songs on your phone and deal with this multi-track project. But there are a couple limitations there if you want to do things more. You want to approach that mixing process from an educational perspective. So let's take that mixing engine and this timeline of multiple tracks and make it entirely cloud-based so that suddenly you can listen to and mix multi-track music projects without downloading anything. You can share the mixes that you make with other people instantly without them downloading anything. And you can do all of this without any special hardware or even computational capabilities beyond a modern web browser. So we're building the client-server application where the heavy lifting of the actual mixing process is happening on a remote server. We've got it installed on an Amazon EC2 instance now. It's a client-server-based architecture, meaning we can write multiple different local clients that connect to this audio server and let the user experience the mixing. We don't have very much in the way of the sharing features I mentioned, but since everything's happening virtually, that's a natural progression. So the link that we are pasting there in the group chat, and we can tell you now, this is a virtual mixing board written entirely in HTML5. It connects to the audio server and lets you manipulate the tracks in real time and listen to the levels change and things like that. So it does not work very well on iOS devices right now. That's just a JavaScript issue. We're working on it. the cool thing about this structure is that we can build multiple clients, multiple languages. We could do native iPad apps if we wanted to. The client part is pretty arbitrary. This is just a demonstration of this network communication and something that we're working on.
I should have let you start. Yeah.
Yeah, so demo.adagio.is, you can play with the song that we've been using for all of our testing for the last few months.
Yep.
Friends of mine from California provided this multi-track project, but we can really use anything. If we...
Yeah, one of the things, too, that I've been working on is this, it's an accelerator program out of Knoxville called MediaWorks. And through that, I met a guy who actually owns a studio in Knoxville and has 20,000 multi-track stem files from people that have come and record them. They're not the original artists that are recording them, but they record in the studio, and they're very, very good quality. And so he is actually going to be essentially handing over his API to us. We're working out the deal with, broadcast mechanicals or whatever that might look like. But so we're working through all those things right now. But we'll have access to all of those tracks, and it's contemporary songs. I mean, there's top 10 songs that he's had people record. He does this for a living. So we're going to have that library to build on and to test with and to let people just play around with Adagio.
That's awesome, guys. It is so cool to finally see that virtual mixing board live. So again, it's demo.adagio.is if you want to check it out, and I pasted that link in the event page as well. Any questions?
Does it sound okay?
I'm sorry?
Does it sound okay?
I don't know. I'm only listening to you guys, so I'll have to play with that when we get off the call. But if anybody has questions, happy to take them now or through the Q&A section on the Hangouts. Any questions for Jonathan and Craig?
Yeah, this is Bill. Craig or Jonathan, are you planning to mix songs across schools eventually so that you use the gig to connect two of the Hamilton County schools? Is that part of the plan? Or will you be doing
that's one of the big picture ideas, is to do that kind of collaborative piece between schools. We want to kind of walk one school, one program, and essentially one student through the process to see how they're using it. We've already got the student picked out, this girl that's going to be kind of our poster child, if you will, for it, our beta tester. So I mean, those are definitely things that we want to do. Not only just the schools, but also local musicians and having them create for this type of thing. And I'd love to see people go into a library space or any space and be able to get access to even the local musicians in their area and be able to mix and play around with those files too. I think that the applications are going to open themselves up as we move further along. One of the things that we were thinking through is theater education. It would be, I think, really helpful for students to be able to go home and mute their part out in a pre-recorded rehearsal that they do with their theater company, and they would be interacting and acting along with the same people they are acting in the play with the same inflections and everything. So yeah, I think that the use cases are going to start kind of opening up as we move further along.
Sounds great. Thank you.
We have a question from Andrew McPherson of last month's demo call fame, who asks how much of the code that's been developed in this pilot period is going to be open source or is currently available to look at.
So there is, we wrote some low-level C libraries for manipulating audio in an entirely programmatic way, and our intention is for that piece to be made entirely open source and shared with the community. So that would not include some of the server-based pieces, but the general tool that other people could build similar things out of or experiment with processing audio on a server, that kind of thing. So it's not currently available because we're shy, but that is a repository we plan on opening up here once we get through this process of ironing out this first application, clean it up and make it more accessible. Anyway, if someone looked at it now, they would just laugh at us. But it does work. It's just not It's just not ready for consumption, and it will be open.
That's awesome. And we do have a note that Jeff in Chattanooga is listening, and it sounds awesome. So for those of us,
good.
So
there's a couple of technical issues that are pretty interesting about this, and they're all made easier by the fact that we have such good internet here, that we can have low latency between sending these mixing commands and hearing the change, because that's what's happening. You move a fader, and it tells the server, which is in Virginia or something here from Amazon, hey, change the volume on that track, and it updates the stream. So we can run this with a very small buffer so that you can hear that change quickly. Anyway, the reason I'm telling you this is we've got to do a lot of JavaScript foo and networking kind of tricks to make things behave naturally, and I'm anxious to hear of any reports of success from people that are not on the development team, but also problems with their browsers not behaving. This is going to be a kind of an extensive testing process once we have something people can work with.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Awesome to see it online and working. So people, I'm sure, will continue to report back to you as they play with the demo. And if you play with it and have any issues or bugs you want to report or want to tell these guys how awesome it is, they're on Twitter, and you can use the hashtag #GigDemo to give your feedback.
I got to say one more thing in the interest of the demo song that you're listening to. I told you it was provided by friends of mine, just because people are probably watching. They're called Berkeley Social Scene. They're in California. This song is called Witch Hunt. You can find all their music on the internet. Berkeley, like the school or whatever that is. Social Scene.
That's awesome. Nice shout out for our artist. Very, very cool. I'm now going to move us to the next demo, which is Mark Boas from Hyperadio, which was a Mozilla Ignite project last year that has received funding from in the first round of the Mozilla Gigabit Community Fund Challenge to continue piloting and testing their project at the Chattanooga Public Library and with lots of other exciting community partners in Chattanooga. Mark.
Hi there. Yeah, so Hyperadio. Hyperadio is, I guess, is a new way of manipulating audio and video. It's not just restricted to audio, as it sounds like it is. It's actually used quite a lot with video. But imagine that you couple a video with a transcript. Suddenly you kind of open that up, especially on the web, because audio and video on the web are kind of notorious black boxes. And then take it further and sort of add word-level timings to the transcript, so that if you click on a word, you go to that part of the media. That's kind of the basis of Hyperadio. But what we realized very early on is that this is kind of cool for navigating and searching and all that sort of thing, but it's really cool for actually editing. So imagine using something that looks a bit like a word processor to manipulate your media, so to try and make remixes by copying and pasting text. And that's what we're all about. And what we really want to do is kind of stimulate media literacy. So that means kind of teaching kids how to mix things together, how to express themselves, and also understanding how other people express themselves using media. And we think this is a very core skill that kids should be learning these days. So that's our intention. So we've partnered up with Chattanooga Public Library and other people and schools and so on. And what we're trying to do now is a pilot program that allows kids to make kind of video essays. So we imagine teachers putting together some core material that the student can then take and build out an essay. So instead of writing an essay as we did when we were younger, they would kind of put together a piece of media that expressed their perspective on a particular issue. And added to that, they can also take a talking headshot of themselves, transcribe that media, and sort of intersperse their take on something with their own particular brand of personality, or whatever you want to call it, or their own take verbally expressed. So I'm going to now do a screen share, and hold on, I'll probably get a picture within picture for a second. Let me see if I can get this working. That's chat. Screen share is not seeming to work for me. Isn't this perfect? Hold on a sec. You just click the green icon on the left usually, right?
That is correct. Let me see if I can share controls with you. Let me see. Try it now.
It just kind of comes up. Oh dear. So, what to do in this situation?
We've learned that Hangouts are an imperfect medium, so thanks all for your patience.
Well, I can kind of, if you can get it up on your browser and share your screen, you can just go to Hyperadio, and is that coming up?
Yes, it is. Hang on just a second.
Sorry about this. I have no idea why it's not working for me.
Absolutely no problem. This is part of the drill. we know that firsthand. We're thrilled to see where Hyperadio is going.
So
by the way,
I'll just,
Mark, we've got a lot of other communities eager to partner with you, particularly Burlington, Vermont.
Well, we're starting off with Chattanooga, and then I'm talking to people from Boulder Public Library, and also the Studs Terkel Archive are very keen on using Hyperadio. So
there we go.
There's a few people interested, and what we're trying to do now. Okay, so there's the front page. So Lindsay, if you can just go to let's just type this in. This takes you straight to something called the Hyperadio pad. So go to the second link I just gave you, or just add pad to the URL.
Got it.
And what you can see here is this is our kind of mixing tool. This is our mixing desk, I guess. So if you click on the hamburger icon, well, now you can just click on any of the words there on your screen, and it will go to that part of the video. But I hate hearing my own voice, so I wouldn't doing that.
We like it.
But what we've done is working together with Chattanooga. It's been really good because they've been able to try it out in the field with kids, and they've actually started remixing stuff, which is great to see. And what we've decided to do was to create their own version of Hyperadio. So we've created something called Chattanooga.hyperadio. And I think this is a good idea. What this allows us to do is to kind of narrow down the content to a certain specific thing for Chattanooga, who are very interested in something they call oral history, which is all about people talking about their lives and how things used to be. And they have a lot of material that we're currently transcribing and putting up on the system. So Lindsay, can you share that screen again?
Yep. Sorry.
And so now if you go to the hamburger icon, top, that's the one, yeah. Click on media, and you'll see that there's various stuff. You go to chat oral history just at the top there. You just scroll past it. That's it. And so you could click on one of the, yeah, you can click on the top one or anything that says anything you fancy actually. Okay, so this is an example of somebody being interviewed in the 80s about what their life was like when they were younger. So you can click play, and it should play. So we're playing. We can't. This is the great thing. You can't hear the audio, but you can see what's happening with the words being lit up. So we can click on any of those words and go directly to that that part. So it helps with navigation. But what we can also do, and you can try this, Lindsay, is you can highlight a bit of text and drag it over to the right-hand side. And then you can add a number of effects from the bottom part of the menu, which is fade, trim, or title. And you can quickly start building up your own mixes in a very intuitive way. And the great thing about this is, and this is why we really are very happy to collaborate with the Gigabit network community, because we're just pulling bits of media together on the fly. So the faster your internet connection, the better this is, because we're not actually mixing down to one single file. We're looking forward and thinking, let's make something of the web and pull in different files in real time. And this is a good idea for many reasons. And one of the reasons is that somebody can take your remix and deconstruct it. They can look at it and say, oh, I wonder how you did that. You know, you can go to full screen and just see it like a normal video and not have any idea that there's a transcript underneath powering it. But then you can then sort of view the source a bit like you can do on a web page. You can go in and see how people have created certain effects, and you can also go in and change it. But you don't necessarily have to do that in a subtractive way. So you don't have to make it smaller. Like at the moment when most people make remixes of something, it tends to get smaller and smaller as they cut because they can't expand. But what we say is that nothing is left on the cutting room floor. So we allow people to actually make bigger remixes. So they might say, look, I understand what you did there, and that's an interesting perspective, but if we show the 10 seconds before that little clip that you put in, we can establish a new context. So we think that that's quite a powerful motivation for keeping everything very loosely coupled. And it's been great to work with Chattanooga. They're going to customize their own Chattanooga Public Library. They're going to customize their own front page, so it looks completely different. If you now go to chattanooga.hyperadio, you will see that looks slightly different. They're just starting to customize the front page. It says Hyperadio Chattanooga. They use the Chattanooga font, which I was not aware existed until recently. And really, they don't have to do much to change things. And then you can maybe choose your own colors. And if you append /media to that, Lindsay, to that URL, so you just put /media. No, you missed. That's it. /media. You should see, and you need another slash. Sorry.
Oh, another slash?
At the end of it, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's we should fix that. What you will see is we have Chattanooga oral history there. If you expand that, you will see media that is particular just to that domain. So this is all the Chattanooga stuff. So that kind of filters out all the stuff. But in the Hyperadio, in the main website, we see all that stuff as well. So it's a way for people to contribute to our base of content without necessarily getting bogged down with a huge amount of stuff that will eventually be in Hyperadio.
That's really nice.
That's kind of where we are. I think I'll just leave it there for now, and if you got any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
That's really nice. I like how you've done and separated out the Chattanooga stuff. I think that's great. It's a model that everybody else could use.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying things out now and actually moving it forward because we're not quite at a kind of releasable beta stage. So what we want to do with this funding is to make something for Chattanooga, but also make the core product a little bit better so we can release a version of it that people can start using. And I'm just going to put the link up if anybody's interested, just to sign up and receive sorry, I'm just doing two things at once. To sign up for the beta test. So we'd love as many people as possible to come in on this and help us out. Everybody kind of understands that the more people we have using something and telling us about the errors, the better. And we'd just love to grow that list. We've got about 250 people just now, but we want to get a bit further. And hopefully, by the time we finish this process, we'll be ready to send you all an email, say, come in and try it out, and that would be really great to see.
That's fantastic. And Marquetta, just a real quick question. If you didn't have Hyperadio, is it virtually impossible, or is it really, really difficult for a student to do this? I mean, I'm not...
well, perhaps, see, this is a kind of shared experience, a bit like, you know, we were talking about with Adagio that this is a web-based experience. So first off, there are some audio and video editing tools on the web, but they kind of, there's a steep learning curve there, and they're very visually based. This is an ideal way to be able to locate content and then work with it. And, you know, like I said before, you can actually start mixing stuff without hearing the audio at all. You could be sitting on a bus. I mean, we want to take this onto tablets especially and phones. Okay. You can start work on a bus and just start putting things together without having to worry too much about, you know, when you look through a video and you scrub through it to try and find that bit
Yeah.
So we eliminate all that effectively. So we think it's a different way of working. And the other thing is we want to integrate Together.js, which is a Mozilla thing, so that people can collaborate and work at the same time on the same mixes.
Okay. Love it. Great. Thank you.
Awesome, guys. We are coming up on the end of our hour. Thank you all so much for watching and participating, and to all of our participants, thanks for bearing with us as we continue to test and get over some speed bumps with this format. But we think it's a great opportunity to share across Kansas City, Chattanooga, and all gig cities. So I'm sure we're all willing to hang around and answer questions on Twitter if you want to use hashtag #GigDemo, or post questions on the event link. If you would like to participate in this call and share what you're working on in the gig space, there is a link to an Etherpad on the event page for today. So we would definitely invite you to join us for our next call, either as a participant or viewer, which will be on Friday, August 1st, not too far away. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks very much.